Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our primary webinar for Irish. My name is Elizabeth Ivory, and I'm Head of Marketing and Communications here at Phonics. So what we have planned for you this evening, well, first up, we have Jenny Kavanagh, an experienced teacher and Pholins reviewer, who will bring you through how Aubergine edition can make it as easy as ever to teach the primary language. And followed by Jenny's presentation, we'll have a quick Q&A session. So if you do have any questions on Aubergine throughout the presentation, just pop them into your chat box and we'll get to as many of them at the end as possible. And joining us for the question and answer session is Ciara Walsh, one of our commissioning team. And Ciara has worked on Aubergine since the very beginning of the series. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to this section of tonight's webinar showcasing the second edition of Aubergine for juniors, seniors, first and second. So I've been using Aubergine for a number of years now, since it was published, in fact, and I've used it across several class levels at this point. For me, one of the greatest benefits of Aubergine is its ability to immerse our students in the whole world of Aubergine that Pholins have created for us. And immersion, we know, is the single best way to embed strong oral language skills. And strong oral language skills then, in turn, lead to progressive reading and writing in later years. But this second edition of Aubergine doesn't just embed those strong oral language skills. It does a lot of things well, but for me, it does three things in particular very well. And I think it's quite important for education at the moment to tackle these three things. So firstly, it systematically and methodically introduces phonics, which incidentally, we've actually identified in our school as something that we're not doing quite as well as we could or as we should. It also informally and subtly and very cleverly introduces grammar right from the very start. So subtle, in fact, they don't even realize they're doing it. And the third thing that's doing really well is the introduction of Leglong from a very, very early point as per department expectations. So it's feedback from us as teachers using the Aubergine programme that has led to these changes or revisions or enhancements, if you want to call it that, for this second edition. So Gan Bhriail, we're going to jump in and take a look through the second edition. So I'm going to begin by just pointing out some of the reasons why it's such a fantastic programme, and I'm sure those of you already using the programme will agree. So Aubergine provides the perfect balance of print, digital, and hands-on resources in one easy-to-use package. Learning is connected across each resource so that the same key phrases and vocabulary appear in multiple formats, from digital posters to flashcards to songs to stories to poems, digital games, activities in the student book and in the new big books, which I'm going to show you shortly. And thankfully for us as teachers, this means that we're not constantly twinkling and Googling and YouTubing to pull Irish resources from different sources, yet we can be fully reassured that we are delivering a fun and engaging curriculum through the one Aubergine programme. As a result, supplementing our lessons now becomes a choice rather than a necessity. Aubergine ignites a love of learning, a love of Irish in children with a host of colourful characters in contemporary settings. Fun is at the heart of Aubergine through the humorous scenarios that the characters find themselves in, to the playful elves and the mischievous monkey hidden in the posters. Children can relate to the characters and apply the language from their own lives, be that in the context of a lunchroom scenario, making pancoga, or watching the Late Late Toy Show. Aubergine brings Irish to life through its absolutely outstanding digital resources, from interactive posters, animated choral, songs, poems, vocabulary games, and more. These resources allow children to hear other voices apart from teachers' voices, including children their own age, and they help children to see Irish as a living and breathing language. I'm going to take a look at these, just a quick snippet of these resources, and take a better look at them later on. So firstly, you have the spotlight mode, which hones in on vocabulary. So to introduce characters, to introduce maybe the ingredients there on the table. You also have the Cordoc mode, which hones in on characters and what they are doing or saying.
Is that a chocolate?
You have the historical game to introduce vocabulary on an individual basis. And an hour on.
For the Challenge.
And finally, that was the choral to bring all of the story to life. So with Aubergine, you can rest assured that there is complete curriculum coverage. There's extensive support for oral language, for reading and for writing throughout. And as well as that, every resource has been meticulously planned to put Cumbersoid at the centre. So finally, or next on to the second edition and why that came about and why there was a need for a second edition. So firstly, a few changes. There is a revised structure. So the topics for each class remain the same as they were in the first edition, with just some small changes to modernise content. Feedback from teachers using the first edition felt that they couldn't maximise all of the resources in a particular unit because you were moving from a new topic week on week. It felt rushed and just felt a bit of a challenge to pack everything in. So as well as that, there's new content from big books with infants and level readers in first and second. So increased content required more time. So instead of now covering 4 topics in a month, that has been changed to include 2 topics per month, 1 per fortnight. And for me, I just feel it's a better pace and structure to embed those all important oral language skills at a pace. There's still progression throughout the fortnight, but it's bringing all of your students with you rather than leaving some behind, particularly if there's been absence of that. So the fortnight for me, I think, is a much better structure. Revision and Gaeilge Navramul are also listed so that you can clearly see at a glance what to reinforce and what Gaeilge Navramul can be used within your classroom. In revising the structure, it's brought some changes to the themes. The themes are now better aligned across junior infants to second class, and this is for ease of spiralling content. And also to better support a multi-grade classroom should more than one level be used within a particular room. You're going to see a snippet of choral next, and that is an example of junior infants A and junior infants B. So if it was a multi-grade setting, both classes here are working off the same I'm in a Changa, which is Dina Kuranahana. However, in junior infants, they're looking at K Tusa, with the answer being Miss Misha. In senior infants, then it's an elevated take on it, so they are focused purely on Kadasanam Dit, Sean Anam Dum. So both can work simultaneously within the room with ease. Also, a huge part of Aubergine are the songs, and traditional songs and poems have always been a part of Aubergine. They are still there, Love, Lovella, and so on. But the original Aubergine songs, created by Folens, they've been made simpler so that children can pick up the vocabulary much easier. An example here is the 4 key phrases, as you can see on the screen: Ker Bawalat, Bawalam Shadit, and Gurv Magut, and the keywords being Shockloid and Crispy. And with your teacher hat on, you can imagine just swapping out the Shockloid and Crispy to send them into the shop to buy any other vocabulary that you're trying to enforce. But also those 4 phrases, Ker Bawala, Bawalam Shadit, and Gurv Magut, that's the basis of a choral and a bielin, so there is your linkage and your integration between your topics. So as mentioned at the start, I am absolutely thrilled to see a structured phonics scheme being included in the second edition of Aubergine. It's one thing definitely as a school that we have identified we're not doing as well as we could. I think when they join us in infants, we're so focused on Jolly Phonics and Phonics Osbearla that we forget that they equally need to be able to read and write and spell Osgailge from 3rd to 6th. So it's introduced very, very cleverly because it is merely phonological awareness in infants, but it's still there. It's systematic and methodically introduced then in 1st and 2nd. Methodical coverage of the sounds with supporting digital resources and audio. A detailed supporting notes in the teacher handbook to guide you through that, and you will see that a lot of the phonics activities here in the phonics scheme mirror those found in the English phonics programs. So digital flashcards there with this particular sounds, so very, very well introduced and very, very structured. So Aubergine is absolutely famed for its comprehensive planning tools, and it has been enhanced further in the second edition. I hold my hands up, and I know I'm not alone when I say that I absolutely despise planning. I would rather double yard duty in a blizzard on a crazy junior yard than to plan. But you know, we know it's a necessary evil. If our planning is better, our day runs smoother, our content is better, our lessons are better, results are better. So it has to happen. Thankfully, Folens have made this so easy for us. I am forever grateful, because my planning time since using the Aubergine for my Irish planning, it has more than halved my planning time, because it's so easy to use, particularly because the fortnightly plan in particular is so editable and adaptable. I'm probably not alone that we are in the midst of after school week this week, confirmation tomorrow, sports day in the morning, communion last week, all these things that happen around this time of year. Obviously, I knew these things were coming up. Things couldn't go to plan, so I took large chunks, put them back a week, and put them forward a week. And that is the beauty of this plan, because it's so movable and adaptable for us. It really is an absolute godsend. As you can see on the screen, there's yearly plans, fortnightly plans, and unit plans. So the yearly plan offers an overview of the scheme. It demonstrates really well how to break down content over the course of your year, again, allowing for those busy times that you can adjust accordingly depending on your own school. It allows you to see at a glance the progression and spiralling from class to class, which is great help then for whole school planning, which obviously, if your whole school plan is on point, your Irish overall as a school is better. The fortnightly plan we're going to take a look at next. It's your Bible, it's your go-to, so it's as I said, editable and adaptable, so helpful. And your unit plan then further breaks down your fortnightly plan. Also, to make it even further accessible, it is available in both English and Irish. So your fortnightly plan, as I said, it's your go-to. It contains your 2 focused learning outcomes per strand per fortnight, completely mapped to the primary language curriculum. Next is a list of all the print and digital resources that you're going to need over the course of your fortnight. Your Imnachanga and your Éigean are split into Nimordit, Bokordit, and Déadfá. Your Nimordit is your must for all students. So that is your absolute baseline entry that you are trying to get across in your fortnight. Your Bokordit is your should for most students. So that is the progression that you're trying to get everybody to by the end of your fortnight. However, Déadfá is also there. And that is your could for some students. That's your challenge, that's your stretch, and that's where you're trying to get them to. Your Shulshir and your Gaelgan Avramul are also equally split into Nimordit, Bokordit, and Déadfá. So what absolutely fantastic differentiation in those 4 columns there alone. If you see a word in bold, that means that is your progression. So your students have not seen it previously in their coverage of the programme. If a word is not bold, it means it's their revision. So they have seen it at some point. You can expect that they should know that coming into the programme or coming into your fortnight. The Formanchanga, that is a new feature. It highlights the specific language forms that appear in the key Asian Larry in that unit. At the top of your next page, you have all of the vocabulary you need for your fortnight. So that is your historical, your choral, your auron, and your dawn, and all of the vocabulary. Again, bold and unbold, showing your revision and your progression. The learning activities are then split into your 3 curriculum strands, Changa Ovail, Lehort and Scrivenort, and as always, Iderleu, Masonu, and Kohahu are included for your fortnight. Your unit plan then breaks down your fortnightly plan into a day-by-day scenario, split into then Tréimhse Rave Cummersoida, Tréimhse Cummersoida, and Tréimhse Ear Cummersoida. So at a glance, you can see what your lesson is going to be made up of. If you take a quick look at day 1 and then compare that to day 10, it clearly shows the progression that you go through over your 10 days. Here, they begin with Taspondum. You're just introducing your vocabulary. The Fleiscon Balloon there is a digital game that they absolutely adore. And finally then, you get to Scrivenort then on day 10. Now this is a junior infant plan. They're not Scrivenort. It's you know, it's a beautiful activity in the student book where they're just adding in, like they feel like they're writing, you know, they feel so grown up by the end of it. But this kind of level of progression, you can actually see it in every single level of Aubergine throughout the whole series. The progression of your fortnight is fantastic. There's new features to the unit plan also. On the next page, there's teacher talk and pupil talk. I think this is called pupil talk and teacher talk. To give you an idea there, the noted changa there has, it might draw attention to grammar or something you know, that has been taught before that you might need, and then ní saoithe and dúisnán then is your further differentiation. Is the big books, and big books are something that I am absolutely thrilled to see coming, because I think it's a long time that we really needed this kind of content. Go back to the titles there, just so you can see that there are 10 texts for the infants and 10 texts for senior infants. At the beginning of each book, the key vocabulary and the language phrases are listed. These are tied in with the vocabulary and phrases that the children are learning elsewhere in the Aubergine programme, and they're based on the everyday language that children can use. They are a mix of traditional tales that were also previously included in the Aubergine books, and I think anybody using Starlight or Explorers may recognise that picture, so there's your integrated learning. It also includes the O'Shea family, which is a fictional family, introduced very early on in the junior infants, and it's lovely as you progress on the different levels of Aubergine. It's lovely to see the O'Shea family grow up and through the programme. Sorry, my lights are gone off there. Now, it also contains original fiction and pieces to show that other characters to offer variety, and finally original non-fiction pieces based on topics that will interest the children. And particularly, just because I mentioned the primary language curriculum, if you just take a look at that page, you've Ag Siúil, Ag Grit, there's your opposites, and your top and your mall, so your primary language curriculum is linking in there too. So Leglong is a new Irish leveled reading programme. Again, absolutely fantastic to see this. This is absolutely what the department want to see, especially tackling Léhóireacht in such a systematic way, and obviously Irish books are so hard to come across. It's paired with Aubergine, but obviously it can be used with any Irish scheme. The books are colour banded as per an English leveled reading programme, with 15 titles for first and 15 titles for second. A further 15 books for each the classes 3rd to 6th will be coming soon also, and they will follow. Each colour band contains fiction and non-fiction texts. These readers can be used for guided reading in school, but equally sent home for independent reading. And should they be sent home for independent reading, there is audio available for parents to support the reading at home, but equally for struggling students, that the book can be read to them. So they're not allowed to struggle with Gaeilge, because we know then that is what deters the attitudes towards Irish when students are struggling. The language in each book reflects the language in elsewhere that they would have found in their Aubergine scheme, and like all elements of Aubergine, the key vocabulary and phrases will be clearly stated. There's also teacher notes on the inside cover for both teachers and parents, and this much better supports the reading os Gaeilge that we need to do. So more details on the leveled Irish reading programme will be coming soon, and it's also available with your reps. So in addition to the audio to support the Leglong readers, there is now additional supports online for parents. There's new print and digital resources to support the main Aubergine series. Each student book also contains a Clocta section at the back covering all the basic Irish that the children need at each class level. It's your absolute go-to at the senior end, so it's fantastic to see it now included within the junior end. So in my own school, we're using this Clocta section to really inform our whole school plan, because there's such good progression throughout it, and to make sure that the basics are covered, such as numbers, colours, weather, verbs and useful phrases. What is fantastic about it is that it's full sentences with questions and answers, Irish and English. So again, you can see how this will fully support parents, but also teachers in reinforcing those basics of the language to then progress to a higher standard of Irish. Each word and phrase is, as I said, is presented in both Irish and English, and pronunciations are also available online for parents. What I love to see also is in the junior infant book, I'm sure it's in the seniors as well, but in the junior infant book, there is the songs and poems are there in Irish and in English, which is lovely to see, because often they come home so excited singing and saying poems for mommy and daddy. Maybe their speech isn't developed yet, so the words are there for their parents to correct pronunciations, to hear pronunciations and to listen along, and again support the learning of Irish at home. So we're going to take a walk through a unit, and this is one, I actually counted back today, I think it's 10 weeks since I did Pancoga. It's that long ago since it was Pancake Tuesday, but it was a lovely topic to trial the new digital resources, how they would work, the pacing of the revised structure, the big book. So we took a walk through, and what absolutely fascinated me, I did only have a 5-day gap by the time I got to this. So over the course of the 5 days, by the Wednesday actually, it was full sentences that they were coming out with, and And it wasn't just the one or two that are quite good at Irish, it was everybody. They were so engaged in the topic, they absolutely loved it, they were bouncing off their seats. It was just so accessible for all, so usable, so enjoyable for both me to teach, but for them. And why wouldn't a teacher was flinging, you know, Pancoga and Shockloyd and Limo and Shukra at them, but it was the full sentences that just absolutely blew me away. So we're going to take a walk through this unit and how I got on over the course of the 5 days. So you could begin with your digital poster to introduce all of the vocabulary as it's all contained within your digital poster. So this would be your starting point. You could use the revealer tool on the poster to ask questions such as Cade Sho or He Sho or Cade Thor. You could also use the spotlight tool to draw attention to particular vocabulary within it. You can also use the drawing tool. Obviously, they love drawing on the whiteboard, but equally, you could screenshot this and airdrop it to iPads if you're lucky enough to have iPads, and they can then draw along with you, which obviously they love to do, or work with partners. The digital poster also appears in the pupil book. That is a sample. That is the page from the pupil book there. And all of the pictures around the outside are the key vocabulary that you are focusing on. So again, they can work along in their pupil book with you on the digital whiteboard, matching and partner work, or just taspon them basic activities like that. Next, you can go to your flashcards. Flashcards, I was so thrilled when I saw such high quality flashcards being provided with the program. Again, you know, I'm always looking to cut my prep time. This cuts the twinkling and the printing, and always when I go to the printer it hasn't printed, so I have to go back to my classroom, print again, the cutting, the laminate, the sticking, the up on the wall, the down off the wall for the next set. These flashcards are beautifully produced. I always keep them on my desk. It's so handy to have, you know, in those infant classrooms where they're lined up at the door, you've, you know, 2 minutes to go, their coats are on, their bags are on, and I'm still flinging Irish flashcards at them. That's what they're so useful for. But also the quality is so good. We know in an infant classroom they need to be waterproof because, you know, they need to be chewable and lickable and all those things if they spill water on them, and you still have your flashcards because the quality is so good. So I'm delighted to see these being provided. They match perfectly with your digital poster, your interactive poster. You could match and highlight and they can locate the flashcard for themselves. The key vocabulary from the flashcards also appears around here for communicative or pair work. You could then return to your poster to play your store uckle game or the balloon pop to reinforce vocabulary. Over subsequent lessons then, will this play for me? Over subsequent lessons then, as you work through the choral, you could use the animated choral tool to model the key phrases. It literally becomes choral, choral, choral. So for me, probably Monday and Tuesday was spent introducing the vocabulary, digital poster, they were working on their iPads, flashcards, all that kind of stuff, and then it became choral, choral, loads of it. So it now becomes easier than ever to work through the choral with these choral dividers at the bottom, so you can work on a particular section, and it goes section by section to introduce the story. So it was actually that choral there that I used to hone in on informal grammar. I think Mommy said tour dum, Shifa said shug wit. So I did dum dit do d, and it was just that informal introduction of dum dit do d with the senior infants over the couple of days. And interestingly, I think it was Shifa there at the end said it's Bralum Shockloyd. My more capable students, by about the Thursday of the week that we were working on this, they were naturally just substituting in phrases that they knew from previous, because you know, key phrases being repeated constantly is what just sinks into them. So it became ni malum shukra, is malum banya, ni malum im, is farlum limo daga shukra. And then when I then praised that, of course, they were all trying to substitute in sentences. But again, it was just, they were pulling things that they've heard before, which I was so amazed to see. Obviously, puppets then they've always been part of Aubergine. If only we had 10 of them, because I'm brain dead from the fighting over them. But they're so fantastic for our Shire students, because, you know, they do like to hide behind that little character. So the puppets are a very useful way to engage all people, all students, and then flashcards again, constantly on the go to reinforce our vocabulary. Once you have all of your choral work done, you can then go to the question mode. The question mode can be used to reinforce keywords with a game. The arrow on then can be used to reinforce the key phrases learned in the choral and add a further element of interactive fun. So again, you might have heard the dum dit do, the informal grammar featured there as well, so we honed in on that. The final three features on your digital poster are your dawn, your scale, and your core doc mode. In the dawn, those three lovely ladies say it for you, so it's lovely to hear their little voices, and they do actions that you can copy along with. The scale brings the whole story to life, and finally the core doc mode then, it allows you to hone in on particular characters or features of the story for what they're doing or what they're saying. I happened to be supervising, it wasn't the Pancoga, but I happened to be supervising in a junior infant room last Friday. They had come to the end of their fortnight, and I thought it was an excellent use of the digital resources because their teacher had screen recorded the dawn flowing into the scale, into the core doc mode, and she played that on a loop twice. And it was about 10 minutes of content while they were inside on a break time. And I just thought it was an excellent use rather than just a random YouTube video, which is just, useful. But I thought this was a better one because they're reinforcing their Gaeilge and hearing it twice. And they were singing and along with the dawn and the scale and so on. On to the pupil book. And for me, the pupil book is very well designed because it's not the glorified colouring book that we're absolutely trying to stay away from. In the Aimshigan Difriachtaí, the differences are based around the vocabulary that you're trying to teach. It's not a random difference of mommy in the background. It's what you're trying to teach them. Same with the Aish and Kiangle. When it came to this, you can see obviously Shikeen has nothing to do with Pancoga, but it's your revision. And interesting, one of the senior infants did say, Ní má lum Shikeen on my Pancoga. Like she didn't have the word for mo, but she was trying her best that you could see she was using the vocabulary that she knew before. However, it was on to part C that I just completely, showed the quality of the program because as soon as we did this, the current ord was no difficulties, that was fine. But as soon as they saw pictures like this, it was full sentences that I was getting from them. And it was instant, and it was across the board that it was full sentences. And for me, that was down to this, and it was the big book. Oh, sorry. It was down to the big book, which is on the next slide. And as you can see, the big book there, the picture on the cover of the big book here completely matches the one that was in their student book here. So as soon as they saw this in the student book, they recognized the story that I didn't do it to death, but I did certainly read it a lot. And by the end of the week, they were certainly reading this along with me while they're senior infants. They had it memorized as opposed to reading, but the phrases and the sentence structure was there. So it's the big book that is certainly enhancing the second edition, and I'm so thrilled to see them playing such a prominent role in the programme. As well as that, to show the standard of Irish that is here. I hope I'm not alone in I did not know what a sieve was prior to the teaching of this topic. So again, it's showing the level of Irish that is within this second edition of Aubergine. So the exact same set of digital resources that I've just shown you there is available for every unit in the Aubergine across juniors, seniors, first and second. There's some slight changes in first and second, obviously, for the need for progression. More words are shown on screen, and as children begin to read Os Gaeilge, this is absolutely necessary, and there's also an additional question mode in the posters. The pupils' books in first and second, that's what's on the screen there, they also include an additional spread per unit to facilitate more reading and writing Os Gaeilge. Obviously, it's necessary, and there's a dedicated phonics page. Plus, in the digital resources, there is a digital phonics game to accompany each unit in first and second to again support that systematic development of phonics Os Gaeilge. So with your Aubergine package, what is included? You will have your books, which is your pupil books, you have your digital resources. I don't think I mentioned it. I have 2 boys in my class that particularly have a sensory processing difficulty. They're very, very sensitive to sound, and for YouTube and those, when that plays through the whiteboard, whether it's a tinny noise or something, they are certainly very, very affected by it. But with the Folan's resources, they don't seem to be as affected with the digital resource. They're not covering their ears. It seems to be just a sound quality. It seems to be quite good with it, and they are unaffected by it. So it's quite inclusive. Your hands-on resources then, as I said, fantastic phonics flashcards, including digital phonic flashcards. They're also included, plus the puppets. You also have your teacher books. And as I said, the big books and the Leglong series, which is available to purchase. So in summary, there is engaging print and digital and hands-on resources, particularly those big books and the level of readers, Conan Gaeilge a Spraga agus a Bhuna Skull. There's enhanced supports for parents both digitally with audio and print, Conan Gaeilge a Spraga Sawalia, and undoubtedly the most comprehensive planning tools for any Irish education programme. And that, in a nutshell, is the wonderful revised 2nd edition of Aubergine for junior infants, senior infants first and second. I'm going to hand you back to Elizabeth for further details on the packages available. Gur Míle Magwaibh, agus Sasula Gumbroshe, Sodok, agus Salair, agus Gwynship Tanit, us on webinar show. So, Gur Magwaibh.
Thank you, Jenny. That was an excellent presentation. Apologies if there's a little bit of interference on the sound. We're having a little bit of difficulty earlier with our Wi-Fi and electricity in the area. So if you do hear a little bit of interference, apologies for that. Before we move on to our question and answer session, I just wanted to let you know that if you have a little bit of time, check out the books for yourself on folans.ie. So we have ebooks of all the pupil books, the big books, some of the lesson plans, and lots of digital activities for you to try out in the classroom today. So take a look there for yourself. We also have a special offer running on Aubergine, a special introductory offer. So if your school decides to book list Aubergine 2nd edition across junior infants to 2nd class, you'll get a complimentary big book pack for each infant classroom. So if you want more details on that, chat to your local Folan's rep. We're also running a Super Summer Specials 20% off offer until the 30th of June across a range of different products. So coverage within that, we have our Primary Teachers Yearbook, the Homework Diary, and Phillips Primary Atlas. And we also have 20% off class sets of some of the English skills programs such as Literacy, Leap, New Treasury, and Spell It. So all the details are on folans.ie, and you can order direct from info@folans.ie or chat to your rep as well. And finally, don't forget that all your Folan's reps are available for calls and meetings at a time that suits you and your colleagues. So you can find your reps' contact details on our website. So we'll just have our question and answer session. We have a couple of questions coming in. And what I would say is that if you do have a question, just pop it into the chat box there, and we'll try and get to it. So we've had questions already. So I'll just ask yourself, Ciara, just when the Leglong readers will be available.
Yep, so the Leglong readers will be available to purchase from this coming autumn. So back to school time, we should have them coming out around September, October. And we will have samples available of them very soon as well. Again, your reps will have samples, and we will have some samples going up on folans.ie. And as soon as they are available to purchase, we will be sending out communications about that too.
And then I think that as well, Ciara, are there big books for 1st and 2nd class?
There aren't any big books for 1st and 2nd at the moment. The ones that are there are designed for infants, although some of the teaching notes to go with them do suggest how they could be used in older classes if, for example, you're in a multi-grade situation where you have up to second class in the same room as infants, and how you can get something out of it for all your class levels. And it's something we'll definitely consider for the future, bringing them in potentially for first and second if there is enough interest in them.
Brilliant. And then another question coming in, what is the update with regards third to sixth class? Is there a second edition coming for that?
Yes, so we are currently researching updates for third to sixth, and obviously to follow on from what we've done with junior to second, not any massive big changes, just improvements that suit teachers. So that's what we're looking at the moment, is we're talking to teachers about what they might like to see improved in the third to sixth end of Aubergine. Mostly people are very happy with it, so we don't want to make any dramatic changes, and we certainly wouldn't do that. We'd just add to it if there's something useful the teachers would find beneficial, or make some small changes. So that is what we are researching at the moment. Hopefully we will have an update of third and fourth class coming next year, and fifth and sixth the year after. But for anyone who has only recently started using it, no problem continuing with it and then maybe moving over to the new edition once you're ready to. And there's absolutely, in case anyone would be worried about it, there's absolutely no problem going from the new edition of second class into the first edition of third class. They will still connect up seamlessly.
Great. A couple of people are just asking, we will be sending out a recording of the webinar if you want to share with any of your colleagues over the coming days, and also be up on the website as well. Another question, Ciara, is there an Aubergine C and D, or is it 1 and 2?
Yeah, so what would have been Aubergine C in the first edition is now called Aubergine 1, and what would have been Aubergine D in the first edition is now called Aubergine 2. Simple reason for that is just to make it easier to identify which book goes with which class. That was all that was. Just came back in feedback when we researched on the first edition. The teachers found it easier just to say 1 is first class, 2 is second class. So, but the content that you found in Aubergine C can now be found in Aubergine 1 for the most part, and likewise for Aubergine D is now in Aubergine 2.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm just seeing if there is any more questions. One other question here. Will the digital materials still be available for the first edition, Ciara?
Yep, if you are using the first edition and you want to continue with that for whatever reason, and you don't want to move over to the second edition quite yet, you still have access to your first edition digital, so long as the first edition is on your book list. Although by all means I would encourage everyone to move over to the second edition if you're in a position to do that. I know it's different if you have book rental and you're on a rental scheme, maybe with second class. I know for most of junior infants, senior infants and first, they generally aren't in book rental because children do write into them, and that's the case with a lot of second class books too. Because to move over to the second edition, you're getting all the extra benefits of some of the new digital resources that Jenny showed you, the new planning that's even more detailed for, without the content having changed dramatically. So if it suits you to move over to second edition, I definitely would encourage it. But if you're staying on the first, it's not going anywhere. The digital will still be there for you.
Yeah, I think that sort of answers this question. If we're already using Aubergine in first and second, what do we have to do? So I suppose if you do want to access second edition material, it's book list second edition rather than first edition.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, book list your second edition rather than first.
And Jenny, just a question for you. Of the different resources, which one would be your favourite, or do you have a favourite from the resource? Like if it's the big books or the choral, what would be your favourite?
To me, it's the big books that embed the language really, really well. However, the digital resources are second to none. I think the uses of the digital resources are absolutely endless as well. And they just sit there mouth open with the scale, all your vocabularies there. So to me, it's the big books enhanced, but it's the digital resources that are second to none, to be honest. Yeah, they are excellent.
Great. I think that wraps up all our questions. There's no more questions come in. Thank you all for your time this evening. I hope you found it useful. Thanks, Ciara. Thanks, Jenny, for a great presentation. And thanks also to Bridget and Brian for all their technical support in the background. Okay, thanks a million and hope you have a lovely evening. Take care.
Thank